So the next person that's going to come up is, again, one of my mentors, Kim Stevens. We had a bit of a dinner last night, and I was only able to just touch on how valuable Kim has been to the organization and the rest of the partnership board. Last year, you saw it was a little bit emotional. It was Kim's return to the podium. This year is no less important. Kim has been a tireless steward, sheepdog, and gatekeeper of everything the partnership stands for. We're lucky to have him. Kim, come on up here and give us, start the rest of the day for us. Kim Stevens.
Thank you, Richard. I'm a little shorter than you. No, it's today, Richard and I have an interesting role, or roles rather, in terms of, this is a 2-day event. This is actually our biggest undertaking ever in terms of, it's a 3-day event. And in terms of Richard's role as a moderator and my role as the narrator, because, and I had actually 4 segments, kicking off the morning, the afternoon, again tomorrow the morning and the afternoon, to try and maintain a bit of a theme for what we're trying to present here and the messages, because so often you go to a 1-day event, and by the time you get to the end of the day, you've forgotten what was said in the morning. I just want to start by, in terms of this first segment, which is a bit of looking back to last year, so we can look ahead to this year. And I want to single out Wally Wells over there. Please stand, Wally. Because in a real sense, we would not be here today if Wally hadn't sent an email 24 hours after the very successful Comox Valley Eco Asset Management Symposium. And the Comox Valley is well represented at this event. And that really was the genesis for what we are now calling the Vancouver Island Stewardship Symposium series. And Wally said, congratulations on an amazing workshop in public forum recording. I just kept saying to myself, we must do this in Nanaimo. And we did, right, Wally? And then for all of those who were at Nanaimo last year, at the end of the day, they said, what next? And Richard committed us to this year. So it's with trepidation that we're looking forward to tomorrow to know what Richard will commit us to next year. But actually, we already know. So, in looking back, last year, we called it a watershed moment for collaboration success stories, because our theme over these last 2 years is to bring together the stewardship sector with local government, because it's a very powerful combination to have that grassroots collaborating with the top down. And so, Nanaimo 2018 introduced this way of thinking. I'm an engineer, so I'm going to give you a formula, which is community empowerment plus sustainable partnerships with local government. What does that equal? It's a foundation piece for restorative development. And so last year we began the process of branding the phrase restorative development, which set things up perfectly to have Storm Cunningham here with us this year. So we're going to be building on the 3 takeaways from Nanaimo. 1, an informed and educated stewardship sector is a catalyst for action. I emphasize catalyst for action. 2, aligning stewardship and local government efforts. Aligning efforts is key to reestablishing creekshed function in the Mid-Island region. Really, we're trying to turn the clock back as best we can. And 3rd, and this is really important, that's a big part of the theme of today and tomorrow, is learn from those who are leading change. Learn and share. And so that's an important theme for today. The overarching theme for this symposium, again, we work very hard on our language, trying to find the right words that will mean something to people and will be intuitively obvious. And this kind of evolved. We didn't get on the first crack being able to say, improving where we live through restorative development. Words are pretty straightforward, but there's a lot of implications there. Because really it's connecting the dots, and in terms of the 2 days of the event, it's restorative land development results in sustainable stream restoration. So that's the takeaway message. You are indeed a diverse audience. and you have come from far and wide. I think the furthest away is Alberta. Where is that individual? There he is. A hand, please, first. And there's representation from the Okanagan, there's representation from Metro Vancouver, there's representation from Victoria to Port McNeill on the east coast of the island. So that's pretty darn significant. And of course, our guests from across the border, from Washington State, from Mississippi, Vicksburg, Mississippi, is Dave Derrick. But what's really interesting, what's really powerful about the audience mix is the fact that we have such a well-balanced mix. How often or how many times have people been to an event where you could say you have 40% stewardship sector, 35% government, and 10% consultants, and 15% others? I mean, it's an amazing balance that we have in this room today. And that really bodes well for where we're trying to go. When you're registered, we ask you 3 questions. And your answers provide us a lot of helpful insights. We want to know how to learn about the workshop. And that was really intriguing because, you know, we tried to put the word out through multiple pathways, and it was amazing to see how some of the people learned about the symposium. So we knew we were going beyond the normal network that we had. And within our own network of the partnership, we have something like 2,500 people on our distribution list for our weekly e-newsletters. And we must have had, if I looked at it correctly, in the order of 20 to 25 sources where people identified how they heard about today. So we're very happy. But it was the 2 questions: what attracted your interest, and what are your expectations in attending, which were really key to us, because that helped shape the program. So, you know, 2 days, 4 modules each day. The modules are all different. You know, this is not your classical conference where you randomly call for papers and you kind of string them together, and if you're really lucky, all kinds of blows. No, this is very orchestrated in terms of we have educational, we have learning outcomes in mind for each module, for each presentation of the module. It's all designed to fit together. In terms of the different kind of modules, well, following me will be the keynote. Both days we have a panel and a town hall, and we call that the heart of the program because it's really the opportunity to really engage the audience. We like to work the crowd, Richard and I do, and that's a big part of creating lots of time to work the crowd, to go out there and get those people who don't normally talk, to get them talking. This afternoon we have a mini workshop with a symposium. That'll be Neil and Sylvia. Part of that knowledge transfer to try and build capacity amongst a very diverse audience. Each day, though, we do conclude with kind of a reflective piece. And tomorrow, we'll have what we call the beacons of hope, the success stories, Brooklyn and Boca Creek. In terms of setting the scene for what will follow me, after Paul does his presentation, for the keynote, we really wanted to present the science behind the whole system approach. And the original concept was to have Chris May and Bill Berry tag team. Now, about 5 weeks ago, Chris May had spinal fusion back surgery. And he was so hopeful right up to his last session with a surgeon last Wednesday that he could still make it. But his surgeon said, you still can't travel for 3 more weeks. So Bill will will deliver both his reflections and the material that Chris May presented. And I just want to provide a bit of a personal anecdote with both Chris and Bill. Because in 2016, I was invited down to Australia to be the keynote speaker at a national conference. And it was while I was down there that it really crystallized in my mind why in the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia, and Washington State, why Rich Horner and Chris May of the University of Washington were so important to us that they changed the conversation. Because what I realized in Australia, the conversation was being dominated by the engineering crowd. And I'm an engineer, I can say that. And they were arguing over formulas. They were arguing over voodoo hydrology. And even though Rich Horner and Chris May are engineers, they have the fish passion. And they changed the conversation by introducing science into understanding what took place on the landscape, how that affected the streams. And it was only with the perspective of time that I could see how important Rich and Chris were changing the conversation in this part of the world, such that I could say, Australia, despite everything they're doing down there, they're still 25 years behind in their thinking, because they've allowed it to become too engineering-centric. And Bill Derry will elaborate on the contribution of Dr. Chris May and what he made possible with seminal and transformative and far-reaching research that was done in the 1990s. And science stands the test of time, and so I'll leave that to Bill. Bill is an old colleague and friend of mine. Where's Bill? Here he is. Lost you there. Because going back about 20 years ago, we must have done about 20 workshops presenting the science in a way that people understood and could grasp what Rich Horner and Chris May and the rest of the gang at the University of Washington had accomplished. And Bill has this unique combination because he started out in local government being one of the first water utility managers in Washington State. He then had a 20-year career in consulting, and you finished out your professional career as a stewardship sector guy and the president of Friends for Puget Sound. So it's an incredible background. Very briefly, in terms of the town hall, which is after the coffee break, and in the we have the five speakers, and the role of the five speakers in a panel is to power through, give you the key messages, priming for the town hall interaction, and we're using the Englishman River as the backdrop. For those of you who were on the Dave Derrick Day yesterday, and those David McKenzie filming, and it was Dave who came to us, and he's a volunteer, he's a videographer, and he said, one cannot attract supporters to just words and bullets and PowerPoint slides. Visual media is the way to do this today. And tomorrow, for those of you who are not on the Dave Derrick field trip, you will see one of the first videos that he's produced for Shelley Creek. This started out as, guys, I'll produce a 3-minute video which you can show the day after we filmed it. It's now expanded into a series of 3-minute videos. There's more to come because he's got the passion. Richard introduced the theme of citizen science, and I'd like to single out one of my mentors, Eric Bonham. Would you please stand up? Because Eric Bonham was a former director in 2 ministries, municipal affairs and environment, and while he was in government, he believed passionately in engagement of community, as you can see through this political quote which he wrote a few weeks ago after he had an op-ed published in the Vancouver Sun about engagement of community through stewardship is a credible formula to be encouraged and mainstreamed at every opportunity. That's why it's so significant today that we have 40% stewardship and we have 35% government represented here. As Eric wrote, collaboration, teamwork, and a recognition that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts is the energy that stakes creativity and determination when this combination of citizen talent is aligned with a local government that is both visionary and focused. Outstanding achievements are not only possible, but realistic. And that's what you're going to be learning over these next 2 days.